Welcome back. In 2017, the Nigerian government continued to push forward its foreign policy in a bid to draw support from the international community in addressing the country's domestic challenges. Our next report takes a look at the highs and lows of Nigeria's foreign relations in the past year. The xenophobic attacks against Nigerians in South Africa, migrants dying in the Mediterranean, and the slave trade going on in Libya. These are some of the issues that affected Nigeria on the international scene in 2017. Nigerians living in South Africa came under attack by local vigilantes in the month of February. Many suffered the destruction of their homes and businesses, and some lost their lives. Reports of these attacks attracted condemnation from the Nigerian government, with the National Assembly demanding answers from the South African authorities.
We intend to engage the South African Parliament and other authorities on areas of mutual benefit and how much both countries could lose from xenophobia and possible retaliatory actions or severing of diplomatic ties.
Not deterred by this threat, South Africans held an anti-foreigner march. The South African ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Lulu Nguni, however, offered more sympathy and reassurance to Nigerians.
As government, we are trying to follow up on this and, of course, to arrest some of the people involved.
Meanwhile, a report by cable news network CNN in November on the slave market in Libya sent shockwaves through sub-Saharan Africa and around the world. The report showed footage of what it said was an auction of men offered to Libyan buyers as farmhands and sold for $400, a chilling echo of the trans-Saharan slave trade of centuries past. With the help of the International Organization for Migration, thousands of Nigerian migrants were flown back home from Libya. Amidst all this, there were reports of 26 Nigerian women dying in the Mediterranean and buried in Italy. It was later discovered that this report was not completely true.
When I finally arrived in Italy, I was informed by the Italian officials that out of the 26 dead women, only 3 were identified as Nigerians. Later, information got to me that only 2 of the women were Nigerians.
But it wasn't all doom and gloom for Nigeria on the foreign scene. In September 2017, President Muhammadu Buhari joined other world leaders at the UN headquarters in New York to discuss global issues. The president made a strong call for international cooperation despite conflicts and boasted about Nigeria's unshaken democracy.
Our faith in democracy remains firm and unshaken. Through our individual national efforts, state institutions are being strengthened to promote accountability and to combat corruption and asset recovery.
The president also hinted the international community on the best way to deal with the nuclear aggression from North Korea.
Mr. President, Nigeria proposes a strong United Nations delegation to urgently engage the North Korean leader.
So how much progress did Nigeria's foreign policy record in 2017?
Nigeria has not been very strong in its foreign policy, as it used to be during the apartheid South African time period. Basically, if you ask many people about our direction in foreign policy, they will tell you they don't know.
Nigerians will be pleased to see the giant of Africa become more vibrant, dynamic and purposeful in its foreign policy. Meanwhile, a lot of notable events dominated the news headlines in 2017. Let's take you through some of them in this next report.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that Donald Trump was sworn in as the 45th President of the United States on January the 20th, 2017.
the office of President of the United States.
A day later, millions of women held several anti-Trump rallies around the United States. According to organizers, it was meant to send a bold message to the new administration on the first day in office and to the world that women's rights are human rights. Undeterred, President Donald Trump on January the 27th signed an executive action which he said would impose tighter vetting to prevent what he called radical Islamic terrorists from entering the United States.
I'm establishing new vetting measures to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of the United States of America. We don't want them here.
Mr. Trump's order to restrict people from 7 Muslim-majority countries from entering the United States sparked confusion and anger after immigrants and refugees were kept off flights and left stranded in airports. North Korea's state-run television showed a video on February the 13th of the successful launch of a nuclear-capable missile and still photographs of leader Kim Jong-un supervising the operation. The first of many to come in the year 2017, the North said it had successfully test-fired a new type of medium to long-range ballistic missile it's pursuing in violation of United Nations resolutions. U.S. President Donald Trump vowed to deal with North Korea very strongly following the missile launch. All eyes are on the U.S. to see how it would respond to the North's aggression in the new year. In the Middle East, a chemical attack on the opposition-held town of Khan Sheikhoun killed dozens of people, including children, on April the 4th. The U.S. government said the chemical agent sarin was used in the attack and that it was almost certainly carried out by forces loyal to the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The United States fired cruise missiles on April the 7th at the Syrian airbase from which President Trump said the deadly chemical weapons attack had been launched, the first direct U.S. assault on the government of Bashar al-Assad in 6 years of civil war. Meanwhile, the Arab world's biggest powers cut ties with Qatar on June the 5th, accusing it of supporting Islamic militants and Iran, and reopening a festering wound 2 weeks after U.S. President Donald Trump's demand for Muslim states to fight terrorism. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain severed diplomatic relations with Qatar in a coordinated move. Yemen, Libya's eastern-based government, and the Maldives joined later. Transport links shut down, triggering supply shortages. In Europe, a suicide bomber killed 22 people as he left an Ariana Grande concert at a music venue in the northern English city of Manchester. 22-year-old Salman Abedi, a British man born to Libyan parents, detonated the bomb in the Manchester arena. And back in Asia, on December the 9th, the Iraqi military announced that it has fully liberated all of Iraq's territory of ISIS terrorist gangs and retaken full control of the Iraqi-Syrian border. Earlier, US-backed militias in Syria had declared victory over Islamic State in its capital Raqqa on October the 17th, raising flags over the last jihadist footholds after a 4-month battle. In Africa, Gambia's President Adama Barrow was sworn in on February the 18th in Bakau, west of the capital, Banjul. The president took the oath 1 month after the ceremony held in the Gambian embassy in Dakar, Senegal, to legally swear him in, since former leader Yahya Jammeh refused to leave office despite losing the December 2016 election. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe's military on November the 15th confirmed that it had seized power in a targeted assault on criminals around President Robert Mugabe, but gave assurances that the 93-year-old leader and his family were safe and sound. A week after the army and his former political allies moved to end his 4 decades of rule, Mr. Mugabe resigned as Zimbabwe's president. Former security chief Emmerson Mnangagwa was sworn in days after the overthrow and said elections will go ahead next year as scheduled. And one of the most heartwarming stories of the year 2017 is perhaps the announcement on November the 27th that Britain's Prince Harry and US actress Meghan Markle will marry next year. The couple will tie the knot on May the 19th at St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, which is where Harry was christened when he was 3 months old.
Finally on the program, as we celebrate the beginning of the new year, I urge you to take a cue from New Yorkers who braved frigid temperatures to line up for the annual Good Riddance Day event in Times Square. The symbolic event has passers-by write down bad memories of the past year on a piece of paper to put it in a shredding truck, to shred it, to forget it. As we go forward into the new year, let's leave the negativity and bad memories of 2017 exactly where it belongs, in the past. Happy New Year, and thanks for watching Diplomatic Channel this week. I'm Temi Tokwe Fagbili.